What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreon, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Neo the One, Lostcat FE, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Mike, Muted, Dick Earth Skeptic, Chris Hillman, LA Literalist, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Rob H, Burn Fat Till My Stomach Is As Flat As the Earth, Nathan Thompson, The Real Gabster, Windrider, Missouri Bear, Henrik86, Liam Nedrick, Erwin Jennisons, Abraham Mohammed, Dave Rakia Gafford, Naibai, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic36, Life is Short, Fireball X, Felix Hung, TheFlatEarthChannel.com, Texas Mike, Edwin Johnson, Kirsten Smith, Alexander Main, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now we are joined by at least a couple of people in the Discord server, so I'll raise the mic on them while I set up for today's live show. Hello, Flatzoid. Hey, 10th man.
Good morning. Good morning.
See who we've got with us in the panel?
What's that?
See who we've got with us?
No.
Good morning, 10th man.
Neil.
Sarita.
Well,
So wait, I come up as Sarita Cosentino over there?
Yep.
Yeah, I can't figure that out. That's my wife's email. Oh, well.
so it's your fault that Flatzoid got a spider bite on his hand.
My God, that's nasty.
What happens when you live in the bush?
No, he needed the help of a webmaster to get onto Master B, and look what happened to your hand.
It actually happened while I was doing the balloon demonstration.
Hey, I saw your video, as you know, on your balloon, your helium balloon.
It took me a while to get it to sit still.
What kind of weight did you have on that string?
Later,
I can't make out a word you're saying.
I used my daughter's Play-Doh.
Play-Doh. Okay, got it.
I tried to do it outside a few times, but every time I get somewhere, then the wind comes up again. So I had to do it inside.
Yeah. It'd be hard to do it outside. You know, with the atmosphere stuck to the earth and all going in one way, that's pretty hard to synchronize, right?
I got videos of train going in opposite directions the whole time.
Actually, your balloon test outside would prove how the so-called atmosphere is not velcroed or stuck to the earth.
10th man.
Yeah.
The fires that are going on in California, is that anywhere near you?
Yeah, my not like near, but enough near where I see the smoke and the whole sky is full of it, and I can smell ash smell in the sky.
Far enough for suspicion not to fall on 10th man.
But yes, they are observable, but in other places, of course, much worse. So I'm still safe. We called this 2 months ago.
You called it?
I said it on this show, as well as to all my friends. I said, watch, in August and afterwards, there are going to be a bunch of fires in California. This is so often they do this in California that it's almost like clockwork.
Guys, watch Math Powerland?
I didn't know he still had a channel.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. Okay, I won't parrot off his speculation about California currently. Then, if you're not watching him,
No, I haven't seen them. No, I mean they had a report in the news feed I get on the internet that Antifa. I'm not sure if it was Black Lives Matter as well, but for sure Antifa were setting fires. So then they had pictures of a guy setting fires from a guy who took it on his phone. Then they arrested one or two suspects.
I see.
Yep. Well, it's also the non-deforestation, if I said it right, of old trees that are like the bark beetle or other insects of that type would kill the trees, but they don't go in there and take it out, and they don't thin it out, and so it doesn't help the growth of the new trees, and it's just a powder keg ready to go. And that's California for you. Yeah, the bark beetle's more important than human life here.
God's judgment on Hollywood.
There's a lot of that going to be coming down.
What?
So Neil, how'd you leave us from Discord to here? I said much better here for you. I bet it is.
I told you it was a matter of I have to get it now. So Elijah spent like an hour with me Friday, and I got on, and I think it was only Arwin and what's his name, Brian on after he's left, but I couldn't figure out how to get in the conversation. So once he clicked the link today, I clicked it on. It said join call. I hit it, and I had to hit my speaker on. But
nice.
I'll figure out how to change it to Neil Cosentino. But anyway, I'll stay under my wife's name.
Yeah, that's fine. We know who you are. Hey, that was great, Nathan, with Nick from Phuket. Bert reached this goal, surpassed this goal. Getting coffee, probably.
Nathan's got a great audience, man. They're right there.
Yeah, that was when I heard it the first time. I said, "What? 8 months? Are you kidding me?"
The only Nick I know is that retard in chat, Mr. High IQ. So I'm like, I know Nathan can't be helping that guy.
I have no idea who that is, but I've listened to Nick Phuket, Nick for a while now, and he's so sincere and genuine in his on his channel about the subjects he covers. So it was good to see him get the help and everybody, pitching in. So any progress with your son on any of the arguments? Has he conceded, or is he still fighting each argument, Neil?
No, he still thinks that we're stupid. But the interesting thing was Bob Nodell got approached by Netflix again. I was telling Nathan to do a 10-part series, and they claim that they want to bring the truth out of the nature of Earth. And I was like, oh, God, he hasn't learned his lesson.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, if they're going to pay him $200,000, I don't know. But I would have to be recording what they're recording. If they're not going to agree to that, then I'm not doing it.
Yeah, of course. That's the whole trick. Always is. Why don't they come to Nathan and ask him and his cohorts to?
That's what I said. I feel better. I'd feel comfortable if it was Nathan, QE, guys, and these arguments that are right here, I would feel more comfortable. So the first time he went on, he proved rotation of the Earth. Now he's going to prove gravity and then the curve.
Okay, I overheard some of this from the
He
kitchen.
did not reprove rotation of the Earth.
Okay, I overheard some of that from the kitchen. Right, number one, Netflix is like, in some respects, YouTube. It's just a platform. So while a production house may have sold their material to Netflix, that doesn't mean that Netflix has done this last time. It's just somebody who sold their material to Netflix. Yeah? I don't think Netflix specifically commissioned that piece, Beyond the Curve, or what it was called, Behind the Curve. I don't think that was a Netflix production. It was just sold to Netflix to be aired on Netflix. You can't really say, it's like saying, well, it's on YouTube, so it's wrong. Well, no, there's many different sources on YouTube, likewise on Netflix.
Well, I think Neil's point was not that.
I only heard you referring to Netflix and talking about how they'd borne scorn on flat earthers previously.
Well, Neil's point was, if this is going to happen, you better have your own recording of whoever does this, or if it's sold to Netflix or not, however it gets there. You better have your own separate recording in the event that they don't show what actually took place, or they edit it and cut it out to make it seem like something else. So a little bit more of control over your work that you're doing.
No, it's not your work, it's their work.
No, he's saying if they're asking Bob Nodell to do it, and he does it, he should have his own recording as well simultaneously.
Won't make any difference. It's, as I say, it's not his production. If he gets involved with it, he relinquishes it to them. That's how it works. You've got either, or you don't do it. You know, if you want to control it, do it yourself.
That was Neil. Yeah, that was Neil's point. Or don't do it.
Yeah, that was my final thing. If they're not going to agree to that, I could have my backup recording what you're recording, then I ain't doing it.
You're asking for creative control. Well, I wouldn't give you that.
Yes.
Well, I wouldn't give it you. Here, I wouldn't give you that. Why would anybody else? It's their production.
Makes the subject much easier then, doesn't it, Neil? You've already stated why. So it's simple.
I'm just saying that it's not one united, universal Netflix. It's just not that. You know, whoever's producing whatever material that may or may not appear on Netflix, you know, might get sold to other houses that produce and distribute material. Who knows?
Yeah, it's like all these things. Before you even get to first foot of videotape of anything, they say sign this waiver, and everything in the waiver says you give up all your rights.
Yeah, exactly. When I went to Vice, they showed me the contract. I read it, and you make a judgment call not on the basis of what's in the contract, but more on the basis of who you're dealing with, whether or not you trust them, how much information they've given you about what they're doing, how open they've been about it, and at some point you have to take a judgment and say, do I think this person will screw me over or not? And I've turned down, I don't tend to babble on about all the stuff I do or don't do, more likely than not. I turn most of it down. People approach me to do stuff and I go, no. Because I suss them out and think, I don't think you will in any way portray me in a good light. I think you want me to laugh at. And once I figure that out, I go, no, I don't want to do it. You know, I've watched it. People have also passed me stuff. I'm not going to shame anybody, but people have passed me various different media outlets have gone, here you go. They want to speak to you. Oh, okay, on recommendation of somebody I know and trust. But they're not necessarily fully vouching for them. They're just saying, here's an opportunity you may want to experience. Yeah? And then you go forward and you say, okay, well, what's it all about? Tell me about it. You find out a little bit of information and then decline. And then later you find somebody else has done it. And you see precisely what they do to them. And you go, good call. And so far, so good. Yep. I wouldn't have said the Vice interview was a bad interview.
I enjoyed it. That was spot on. Very good.
Well, it's what they told me they would do. They told me what they'd do, and they did it. You know, and I thought the woman I'm dealing with seemed extremely trustworthy. She was very honest about how she was going to present it. She told me where it was going to be, what it was going to be, and I had enough information to make a judgment call that thought, I think this will be beneficial.
Which
Helio sent it to me.
Which
sorry, go ahead.
Which Vice interview are you talking? I'm not sure if I ever saw that, Nathan.
It's 10 questions you have never asked a flat earther or something like that. I can't remember the exact title of the video. I did another one with them, but they just never got aired. So I think it was 2017, a year in review, and me and all the people who'd been on the 10 question series, or several of the people who'd been on the 10 question series, did an interview together. And we were all given various different subjects to cover that had happened in the year that had passed. Various different current affairs. There we go. I'll get there in the end. And I researched them, went in, discussed them, talked about flat Earth, left, and then about a month later, I was like, "Is this ever going to happen?" And they said, "No, in the edit, it just didn't work. So we've decided to scrap it." And I was like, "Fair enough." But again, they told me what was going to happen. There's no guarantees of anything they're going to do, and frankly, I agreed with them. One of the guests was particularly obnoxious, not me, I might add, although I am obnoxious.
That sounded funny coming from you right there.
But Nathan's right when he's obnoxious.
Possibly.
No, but did they air the first one, or you're referencing the second one that they didn't show?
Yeah, the first one got aired, and the only minor criticism I got from anybody was they played like, I don't know how you say it, the instrument that you use with your hands, pheromone, or how do you say it? The instrument that's you interact.
Microphone?
No, not bloody microphone. Like woo, that instrument. You know what I mean? You move your hands in and out of a magnetic wave, and it changes the pitch.
Huh.
I can't remember the name of the instrument. I'll look it up in a minute. Anyway, it had one of them playing over the top of me while I'm describing how basically we've got a god. It's either everything from nothing, massive soup of nothingness, or
sound effects.
It's an instrument, a particular instrument. Don't keep guessing 10th. You're ruining my story.
Sorry.
It was quite interesting because they didn't get permits, so we went and shot at Alexander Palace. It was beautiful, and they've got the great big radio transmitter behind you, which has been defunct for a while, and you can see across the whole of London. You can see for miles and miles and miles. And we're standing up there doing the interview until a security guard comes along and says, "What are you doing here?" And they'd already preempted this and said, "Look, if any security come and move us on, just tell them that we're all students." I think I was probably 37 at the time. You know what I mean? Yeah, we're all students. Yeah, sling your hook, says the security guard. So like, okay, well, we haven't actually finished. Now, fortunately for me, I did every single question in one take. So they got pretty much everything they needed. Then they just needed like a bit for the intro. So they got all of the piece in one take. I was very proud of myself for doing that. And then literally on the last question, I managed to rattle off the answer as the security guard was coming towards us off camera. So literally they pressed stop and, "What are you doing here?" So because I managed to rattle through the answer, it wasn't interrupted by a security guard. So it meant they could keep the take, which they did. It was the only take we got. And then the rest of it, which became the intro, was us walking away with the security guard with his arms folded, watching us walk down the hill. And that became the intro to it. Us buggering off, having been moved on by security.
Oh, that's funny. Okay, I'll give it third time as charm. The instrument, is it a harp?
No. It's called like a pheromone or something like that.
All right, I've had 3 chances. I give up.
Anyway, that was the instrument that was playing it. It's just like what they'd play over like a ghost video or something that's like spooky dooky that they're going to make fun of. Well, other than that, all they had to go with, because of the fortunate scenario where they didn't take 3 takes, just one, that's all they had to use. So that's what they used, right? Well, I was in control of it. I was answering the questions. All they had to do was overdub the questions that asked me, which they did in post.
Is there a copy of this on your channel, or how can I watch this?
Yeah, it's on my channel. I've got it as Vice Media. Demonetised, of course, because it's their material, which I expected. But it's on there. It's 10 things you wanted to ask a flat earther. Vice.
Okay, I'll type it in.
I got it from Helium on 24/7. And I was talking to Battle Mod, the guy you got into the argument with last week, and he was feeling really bad about how he handled it. Just to let you know.
I had no idea who you're talking about. Sorry.
On the 24/7 when you had that guy over a barrel and you wind up getting into it with Mike from 24/7, the battle guy last Saturday.
I don't know. I know I went on 24/7. I have no idea what the conversation was. I mean, it would have been the same as any conversation we had here, right?
Yeah, but I think you started crossing with each other and you wouldn't shut up.
As I say, that's pretty much the same as anything that would happen here, right?
I was gonna say that doesn't change anything.
Anyway, the guy, his name is Battle Mod. He was one of the mods there, and he felt really bad how he handled it. So I was like, "What are you, one of the guys that beat a kid up and say, you see what you made me do to you?"
You see what we made me do? Oh dear. It's because I know who you're talking about. As soon as you said mod, I knew who you were talking about now, because I was told after the fact that he was a moderator in there. I was like, I don't care. Doesn't make any difference to me. But he had on me about whether or not my mother taught me manners. And I, intentionally, you think, all right, I'll lock that away for a little bit. I'll bring it back later. So obviously, as soon as he's interrupting me, I just throw it straight back at him. And he got all personal. Oh, well, I'm an orphan. It's like, all right, well, why are you slagging off my mother and whether or not she raised me well? Is it just so you can slip that in later to get the sympathy card? Totally ignored by me. Literally ignored entirely in the moment. Nice to ponder on it now, though. But of course, that's what they want. They want you to ponder on that in the moment when you're absolutely slaying them with their heliocentric nonsense that they've asserted. In that case, gravity.
Well, I'm so glad no ad homs were interjected in that conversations.
Yeah, there's always ad homs. I tend to wait. I mean, I've got no issue throwing in what could be perceived as an ad hom, but I try and tie it in with a demolition of their argument and then call them stupid, because I can justify it. Well, based on the argument, you are stupid. So it's not an ad hom. It's a description of their stupidity based on my unpicking of their argument and then a declaration of their stupidity. An ad hom would be, well, how do you prove gravity? And you say you're an idiot. That's an ad hom, because you're not addressing the argument, you're attacking the man.
Yeah, but that happens a lot.
If you say, well, asking me to prove gravity is a burden of proof reversal fallacy, you idiot, your declaration of idiocy is based on the fact they've used fallacy. So it's not an ad hom anymore. But that's what I try and do. I'll get accused of ad hom. It's like, well, no, at best you could declare it as a personal attack, but it's only attacking them based on their argument, so even then it's like, no, it's still just a description of stupidity based on an unpicking of a crap argument.
Yeah, I was leaving a chat in one of Anthony's video, and the troll came, or whoever it was, and it seemed like it was going to be a good back and forth, and so I said, well, cite that report you're telling us about from the CDC. So I cited the report. Then somebody who wasn't even in the conversation jumps in, starts telling me how wrong I am. And I said, well, I cited the report, which is what I asked to do. And then next thing you know, ad homs come flying my way instead of, addressing the citation which was requested. It happens so often, though. They're just so angry. Why are you so angry?
Years into it, it's water off a duck's back now, right? To you probably as well as I.
Well, it's, prior to the show and experiencing it happening to you and others, like QE and others, and, and then it becomes a daily thing. You kind of expect it. Well, prior to that, I didn't have any other background to it other than my own conversations and watching other people argue things and seeing it happen there. And I connected the two. I connected the daily repetitiveness of it here to all the times I've seen it before. But because it's not repeated, nor am I in those things in the natural life of mine, it was just kind of there. But now it's like you pick it out so quick, right? It's just so alert to it. Yeah, I mean, people do it all the time.
Like I say, training to spot it. Because the reason for it being used is because it's really effective. Typically speaking, most people don't recognise an ad hom fallacy, and they'll bite.
It's a course direction change. Instead of the argument being highlighted and the person who's losing getting more embarrassed, because of the lack of validation for their point, they ad hom, and it changes the course of the conversation so that the pressure is off them.
Yeah. I quite like it when it happens on account of the fact that it means I get an opportunity to reiterate my argument, because obviously I'm totally justified if they've ad hom me, because they haven't addressed the argument, therefore it's worthy of repeating. And if they've ad hom me, they're in pain, they don't want to address it, therefore they definitely don't want it repeating. And typically that goes on to an obfuscation tactic of a different variety, or a repetition of the same ad hominem attack. You know, the patterns don't ever change.
Yeah, that's the best part, when you repeat it back. Oh, you mean this? It's like salt on the wound, right?
Yeah. They do it in chat. You get to the point where you annihilate their argument, and just either move on to a different person, talk to someone else, ad hom you, and move on to a different subject. You're like, I don't mind in chat. I'll repeat it 50 million times. I'll cut and paste it and just keep spamming it. The bit that demolishes them. Followed by a long barrage of ad homs in their mind. You know, but again, based on the declaration of their stupidity and their lack of concession for it, which they never will. So it means I get to spend, it's great amusement for me, I'll spend half an hour in one of my own chats spamming the same person because they physically cannot concede. It's beyond their capabilities. So I'm more than happy to just correct you continually. You know, what's his name? Just Phil Bell. Orbits. Begging the question fallacy. The assumption that things are falling around us in a spherical motion. This assumption of the thing you're trying to prove is a begging the question fallacy. And I've pointed out to him no less than, and I'm not even joking, I'm going to say 200 times. No less than. It's probably more like 1,000 that I've said it to him. But then I don't know, disappear, do something, come back to my own chat room, and there's Phil talking about orbits because he's been to a space station and watched something go into the sky. Therefore, things fall around Earth in a spherical motion. No, that's begging the question, right? But my ad homs will get even, not ad homs, my attacks on his stupidity, let's correctly phrase it, will get more and more vicious as time progresses, as they just carte blanche refuse to accept their logical fallacy and try and wriggle away from it. It's like, that ain't going to happen in a chat room, is it now? Not at all. Everyone can see you little Weasley worming away from the point that demolishes your argument, and they can see me repeating it 50,000 times. It's embarrassing for them.
Yeah, well, they like to jump to 5 things in the future of something they haven't even proven to begin with. So you can't have orbits without a sphere. So they can't prove a sphere, so they just jump to orbits. And then you have to walk them back.
Orbits is like hemisphere. Well, how do you explain the observations of the stars in the northern hemisphere? Well, you're assuming that they're taking place on a sphere, my friend, by way of this word hemisphere. So you're assuming that when you travel to the southern hemisphere, you're antipodal from where you began. Well, that's just a presupposition that you're then antipodal on this sphere you're trying to prove, therefore begging the question. Well, orbits is exactly the same. All right, so it goes into the sky, and then you're assuming it just falls around in a spherical trajectory around a sphere Earth that you're telling me we've got, and your proof is based on an orbit, something you've assumed is occurring. Why? Well, because you stood and watched something fly into the sky. Well, that doesn't prove orbits. It's still begging the question fallacy.
Yep.
I hate the word hemisphere. I do not use it.
I kind of like it. It's a good pivot point to start a conversation.
Is it the same when they talk about the poles?
Yeah, in context, absolutely.
Yeah, those key words are cool. Like when I hear hemisphere, I haven't heard it for a while from a normie, but mostly on the show. But if I hear it from a normie, it's going to start a conversation. What do you mean by that? Hemisphere.
No, I agree with that. I just hate when we use the, people that understand the nature of Earth, and we still say in hemisphere and all of that stuff. I know it's hard, but
Well,
I try not to say it.
you're not. We say it because it's a word that's used. Someone talking, or guess not.
Who's causing feedback? I wasn't paying attention to the screen at that particular moment.
Oh, no problem. I mean, look, we say the same word sometimes. We know what we're saying, and we don't mean it the same way as them. But it comes out if you have a chance to keep talking about it. Atmosphere, atmo's fine. Sphere isn't.
Yeah, so atmo, air, sphere, a shape. Well, air doesn't have a shape. It takes the shape of its container. So to declare that it's a sphere when your sphere has no container, and it's not going to adhere to the side of the outside of a marble you're claiming is in a vacuum, especially as it disperses, that's just a presupposition that assumes a sphere. Hemisphere. All right, so Earth's got a ball of gas around it, right? In violation of every natural law there is. It would disperse into the vacuum, and it would take the shape of its container, whatever that container may be, if you're saying the vastness of space when all that gas is going to disperse into all of that space and fill the availability of volume in the container it has to fill. That's what gas does. Expand at high speed in all directions to fill the availability of volume. So to just assert, well, it just takes the shape of a sphere. And no, that's not what gas does. But it's part of the fundamental presupposition of a sphere within the language we use.
It's also the word gravity. Whenever they use gravity, I mean, gravity is a real word. You can use it in other contexts, the gravity of the situation, et cetera, et cetera. But when they use it here, that invisible force of yours, come on, tell me how it works. These are all good things.
Right, let's get this show on the road. Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now we are joined by 10th Man, Flatzoid. Surprisingly enough, we've also got Neil, and who else we got in there? Paul, 10th Man, Flatzoid, Neil, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. Welcome one and all.
Hey, good Monday.
Good morning.
Aloha.
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. So my apologies for the double intro. I don't know why it ran twice and then stopped halfway through, but there we go. Any evidence of physical geometric sphere edge horizons, formerly known as Earth's curvature? Hi, Arwin.
Hello. Good afternoon.
Not from Aloha, Hawaii.
Not from Tabazindi.
Curvature, you say?
Indeed, Arwin.
You mean the leading winning argument against flat earthers in a debate?
Against flat earthers? What? It all starts and
According to
dies
them.
at the horizon.
Yeah. No, when you actually ask, so where is it? Yeah, it's not really there. The curvature only exists in the math, and you don't see it.
Yeah, but Arvin, what blocks the bottoms of boats and buildings?
Diffraction has to do with
Angular
the workings of
compression.
the eye and perspective.
So
The
optical.
angles compressed in the distance.
So is this a way to get them to admit the perspective then?
Not necessarily. It's too complicated for them, probably, for them to actually
They don't-
take the effort to try and get it. It's just easier to remind them that the geometry of the ball Earth does not apply to the Earth because the geometric horizon is not where it should be. And
Yeah,
if
but
they
that's
then
muted in
say,
Discord.
okay, the refraction, terrestrial refraction, then it's very simple. It's like, that's very nice, but that's a paradox. You can't use that as an argument because you can't prove it exists. You can't prove terrestrial refraction exists. It's paradoxical.
Perfect. Did you want to add something? Was it who's it? Stagoli? No? Fair enough.
Sorry?
Moving on. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Yeah, I'm just saying you're muted in Discord. We can't hear you in Discord.
Can't hear me in Discord. I see.
That's
he
weird.
said,
No, he's right. He's right. I wasn't able to be heard in Discord. My bad. Sorry. Apologies to the guys in Discord.
Anyway, no axial rotation. I thought my demonstration proved that.
We'll get to that. If any chance someone can spam the link to Flatzoid's video. It's published now, right?
Yeah, let me see if I
Yeah.
can get it. It's a master B you
I'll
put,
do it.
right?
I'm in master.
Yeah,
I can go to
I'll do a
master
more. I'll do a more in detail video later though.
The floating helium balloon?
B. Yes. I just need
All
a
right.
link to
Yeah.
it. Don't mind if it's a bit
Yeah,
I'll spam
I've
the
got
link.
it. I've got it. I'll put in master B.
perfect.
I put it in the YouTube chat as well.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you, Owen. Go to that as it's taking a while to...
Okay, Sean.
damn you, it's come up instead of the chat. Ugh.
Okay, ching chong, it's there.
I'll put it in Ballbusters also.
Well,
Okay.
every argument I get now from Borovs is, no,
I
you're
talk
not
about
supposed to
shells.
see it moving. It moves with the atmosphere.
Got to sort out a technical issue. If you can talk amongst yourselves, it would be really helpful.
Yeah, all right. So it's it was a nice video there, Flatzoid. I mean, you had to do it inside your house, right? Because of the wind.
Ooh,
Yeah, after my 8th attempt.
I can
And it
present
still
it.
took,
It's
and
okay,
it still
Owen.
took
I'm
me
on
an
it. I'm
hour
on
to
it.
get it. Yeah, it
Okay.
still took me an hour to get it right inside as well.
Okay, I've got it up now.
So
Finally.
yeah,
Can you hear me? I've got it up
Oh,
now.
you're putting.
Owen,
yeah.
Yeah?
I've got it up now. Flatzoid. Thank
All
you.
right.
It's amazing. 25 minutes of free flight and not a single movement. It's just the sun that moves. You see, I've got a sticker on the window as reference.
So you weighted the string down with Play-Doh so it could retain a hovering position right where it's at, correct?
Yep. What a mission. It's not easy.
I bet it wasn't.
Huh?
So there will be a more in-depth video showing your setup and such. This is just like the one shot of the, well, it's the money shot really, because it's got the sun moving past it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll make a more in-depth kind of thing, showing all the bloopers and whatever and whatnot.
But for the benefit of the audience, right, sorry, I know 10th Man's just summarised it, but can you just describe the setup as it's yours?
Okay, all it is just a helium balloon floating on one position for 25 minutes. The angle of the camera looking at the sun. So after 25 minutes, you can clearly see the balloon's not moving, but the sun is moving away from the balloon.
But this would, to conclude, this debunks the notion that we would have a 15 degrees an hour deviation as Earth rotates underneath as a non-inertial reference frame. So the claim is that there's 15 degrees an hour deviation as Earth rotates underneath. No, there isn't. There is no Coriolis deviation. This disproves the claim of a non-inertial spinning reference frame turning underneath at 15 degrees an hour. That claim is ludicrous.
That's interesting because we've done earlier on the debates, we had visual demonstrations of people. I used to use it to try and prove gravity of a helium balloon on a string in a car. And then if it would accelerate, then the helium balloon would pop forward, right? So if the Earth was spinning, then basically shouldn't the very slight centrifugal force also cause the balloon to slightly tilt in a direction because of that, as the whole thing is slowly moving?
Once the balloon enters the inertial reference frame, the claim is that Earth turns underneath at 15 degrees an hour, and that's the bottom line. This balloon, according to globe Earth rhetoric, is in the inertial reference frame. It's not attached to Earth. And it's claimed there will be a deviation at 15 degrees an hour. That's what they say you see when you see the pendulum actually swinging. Well, it's not actually swinging at all. Earth's rotating underneath at 15 degrees an hour to make it appear as though the pendulum is taking a curved path to knock over the dominoes. It's not actually taking a curved path. It's claimed Earth rotates underneath. Same with Neil deGrasse Tyson. Ball leaves the ground and the goal is made because it's claimed Earth rotates under the ball. Well, it would rotate under this helium balloon at 15 degrees an hour then. And it does not. Earth is not rotating.
So when they say the Earth and atmosphere move together, then they're actually saying there is no Coriolis effect, correct?
Yeah, they're relinquishing their claim of 15 degrees an hour drift as Earth rotates underneath. That's their claim that's supposed to be proving Earth spins. If they make up some nonsense begging the question fallacy that Earth and atmosphere spin together, so they assume it's spinning, as opposed to having a demonstration that proves it with 15 degrees an hour drift, which is what they claim, then they're relinquishing their claim of 15 degrees an hour drift, the very thing that's supposed to prove it spins. And they replace it with a begging the question fallacy. I assume it spins, and the Earth and atmosphere spin together. All right, what about multiple direction surface winds? That would immediately debunk that claim. Also, not leave you with the claim that proves Earth spinning, which is 15 degrees an hour as Earth turns under this balloon, as we're obviously seeing not happen.
Sounds like a win to me.
Earth isn't spinning. There's no 15 degrees an hour drift, as demonstrated. If there was, flight times would be reduced when travelling west. Move on. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a pre-spherical Earth?
It's right there on screen.
Only in movies.
Is it hot?
I don't know anything about it. It's just made up. Any evidence of the distance to the
It's supposed to
sun?
be a little bit warmer down there, though.
I heard volcanoes again being asserted because of that.
Proving what
What
exactly,
has
Neil?
volcanoes got to do with a molten core?
I was going to say, proving what now?
Proving that there is a ring of fire region where there are an unusual amount of volcanoes for a mysterious reason.
And it burns,
That's it.
burns. The ring of fire.
Just a story.
with a ring of fire. Any evidence of the distance of the sun?
Distance of the sun, it's right there on screen. Oh, it's gone again. Oh, it's not.
What is the sun?
It's right over there, but I don't think there is a distance to it, because I don't think what I'm seeing there is actually coming from or an actual physical object. It's like...
Just apparent.
Yep.
Well, question. If the sun keeps moving, then how can you acquire its distance?
I don't know. It's not tangible in any way, Neil, so seems like a malformed question, but that's what they assert, right? They assert it's a tangible physical thing. A very hot, physical, burning ball of gas in a sky vacuum in violation of natural law. Speaking of laws, any scientific evidence of gravity?
No. Reification, fallacy.
Every time I try to pin them down to this, they always change the subject.
What is gravity?
It's relative density, basically. And that, the force, the supposed force that they can't have because gravity isn't a force anymore, we still have it through relative density disequilibrium force, which explains all of it. And it's not bound to a singular vector. It's both directions. With relative density, that doesn't work out in their heliocentric cosmology, so they just resort to Newtonian conception, even though it's not officially that anymore, and it's now just elusive space-time bending, which is mathematical and not actual. So, that's gravity.
That's Arwin.
I was told
and
that
gentlemen.
my weight proves gravity.
So that's Arwin, Arwijn. Does a daily show. He's on fire right now. You need to subscribe to Arwin immediately. Arwijn. Thank you, Arwin. Very, very concise.
Thank you, Nathan. I talk a lot more about flat Earth on this show than I do on my own.
That's okay. Quick shout out, sorry Neil, to Alexander. I'm just going to shout out Super Chatter, bear with me. Is there any evidence that this show is being recorded? Yeah, it's definitely going out live and recording it, Alexander, but thank you for the Super Chat.
Oh, that was good.
Oh, what's the reference? The guy that came on
in Discord, remember?
Yeah. Is this being recorded? Yeah, if you're talking to me, it is. That's what I do.
Yeah, first he got all outraged, like, oh, how dare you this? And then, by the way, is this recorded? Oh, I'm out of here. Get out. He thought it was just a random...
He had made an assertion and had it demolished at that point, though, remember? He had a choice. Either circle jerk, same assertion, 10 times, having it annihilated, probably turn into a toe tag, or have it annihilated once, make it seem like I haven't heard the reply, and then skedaddle. What a great word. That's hardly ever used. Skedaddle? I'm going to bring that back.
Skedaddle?
Well, if you had a good argument, why would you not want to record it?
I want to record everything I do. If I'm sat in this chair, in this particular position right now, in front of a load of monitors, I'm just going to sit here and not bother recording, even though I'm a YouTuber. Anyway, moving on. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Not yet.
Well, they like to say that they represent a certain field of science, but I don't see how.
It's that field of science that doesn't apply the scientific method.
Well,
when you say not yet, Arwin, what do you mean?
Well, they could always just start doing it at some point, but they're not doing it. they just want to do their story time trick. But technically, they could try to actually empirically figure out what those lights really are and find some confirmation, but they're just not doing it because it's much more popular to just write incredible stories and fantasies about black holes and what could it be and what is on the other side. And they don't want to actually test whether any of it is actually real.
But isn't all the data for their supposed black holes just a mathematical calculations from just a made up? I mean, what is a black hole to them? They've never seen one.
You mean mathematical reification? Yes. Math is
Yeah.
their proof, but they don't back it up with empiricism. So it's just conceptual, and that's it.
Right. So when they talk about black holes, and I mean, lately there've been a few videos from those guys on that. It's shrinking. It's this. It's that. It's like, well, you've never seen it. You can't even. It's black. So even if you saw it, you couldn't see anything. And then you say, well, the only way it works is to reify it and just say mathematically it works.
See, the thing about a black hole, the basic property of a black hole, the thing that makes a black hole what it is that it's black. And the thing about space, the basic property of space, your basic space property, is that it's black. So how are you supposed to see it?
That was black to black. Good comments there.
Red dwarf.
Right.
It's a red dwarf quote.
Yep.
Polly the computer is basically explaining a cock-up. And she's saying that, they've had to all go into suspended animation so that she can negotiate this massive load of black holes. And she's like, and the crew are like, how the hell has this happened? How is it suddenly that we've encountered all these black holes? And she's like, well, they're like buses, aren't they? You wait all day for one and then suddenly 5 show up at once. Right? So they all go into suspended animation so she can navigate the black holes. And when they come back out, she's like, well, there weren't any black holes. And they go, well, what are they? What were they? And she says, grit. A bit of grit on the scanner scope.
Oh, amazing.
Well, you never know. Maybe a new group will rise up. Black holes matter.
Black holes matter? How dare you? It's Black Lives.
No.
No, black holes matter. I mean, it's mathematical. We got to reify it now.
They are black,
Sounds
so
really
I suppose they do.
disgusting.
Well, why is it disgusting? They
Because
believe
black
in it.
holes suck.
No, they don't. Just a conceptual idea. Anyway.
Yeah, they conceptually suck. That's what they're doing in concept.
It's safer to say black space matters.
It's space doesn't suck.
What's it sucking? It's supposed to be removing time, right?
Yeah, it's pulling everything in through mighty, mighty gravity. Even light.
Oh,
Okay.
gravity shows up there now.
Hold on. If you can't bend the concept of time, how can you suck it?
No, it's not sucking the time.
What
It's
did you just
sucking
say?
matter, but at
Do
the
you mean it's
same
not
time, it's slowing
and
down
suddenly-
time.
Gone from excellent to irritating baller. You are basically fantastic, aren't you, Alwyn? I'm not saying sucking. That was the very.
Experiments, okay?
That was the
So-
word you used specifically. They suck. And then when I point out that how can you suck when you can't bend or do anything else with the concept, in this case time, you're like, I'm not saying suck, other than that's the very specific word I used. Like a baller.
Right. Now, space, the vacuum sucks, but it doesn't. Gas blows in all directions. But black holes, technically, yeah, that's weirder. That's a lot weirder. There's the compacted gravity, space bending, so matter is all being pulled really powerfully towards it, right? But at the same time, time is slowing down. So it's like this eternal fall that could never actually reach, and then it gets all weird and paradoxical, and
Yeah, you're describing.
Yeah, but it's all math.
Yeah. Hold on, you're describing Einsteinian event horizons and spaghettification, aren't you? That's what you're hinting at, aren't you?
yeah, but that's what black hole's supposed to be.
What a load of bollocks.
Interstellar.
What a load of bollocks.
Yeah, it's a black bollocks.
Well, if
They
it
just
only
made
You can only
exists in-
see it if a sun is shining from behind it. And then if you're lucky, then it'll look like an eclipse. And that's how they photographed the black hole, remember? Last year, wasn't it?
If it only exists in math, how could the sun be shining behind it? How could you take a photograph of a
I
calculation?
can't.
Well, that's what they photographed, and they're just assuming that is a black hole. And they've been looking for something like that visually for a long time
Where is it
to
photographed?
reify their black hole idea.
Hold on.
So they CGI it.
Where was it photographed from? Where did they photograph the black hole from?
I don't know, some astronomy telescope or something.
A bunch of telescopes.
Looking
It's
through
just grit.
Looking through our atmosphere
Right.
and looking at something.
I'm personally not actually reifying the black hole actually being there because of it. It's just that they did photograph this specific visual, apparently, that seems like a mini eclipse.
Okay, let's just get some clarity.
And they just thought, oh, that's a black hole. We finally found it.
Yeah, that's their job. That's their job. They look at lights in the sky and give them they give them names. Astronomy. Yeah, break it down. What are they doing? Looking at lights and giving them names. Yeah, so they all saw a light and they gave it a name of a black hole. A light we saw. Okie dokie. A black hole, however, has a description and is a mathematical conception. It's not real. Now that you can attribute your mathematical construction to a light you've seen in the sky, you can do that. That doesn't suddenly make real their description of what they conceptualize a black hole to be. Yeah? Now the light that they've seen through the atmosphere with their telescope in a region they claim is a vacuum might be real. They might have seen that light. But it doesn't mean it's in a vacuum. It doesn't mean it's the mathematical conception that they've described with black holes. It's just a light they've seen and given a name. That's their job, though, isn't it now? Give these lights names? Not science, just naming stuff.
Yeah, astronomy.
I name this light black hole. Good job. Excellent astronomy.
Right. But they didn't just see black. They did see like a sun behind it or another light behind it and then a hole in it. And so that's how they saw, oh, that's how we finally are able to see it, because by happenstance some big sun maneuvered right behind it in the right moment, and then we could actually see the black hole as it was surrounded by the light that would not be bent towards it because of the mighty gravity.
I counted 5 presuppositions.
I know.
Okay,
I know.
Nathan, I just typed in black hole photograph, and I'm going to post in Master B what they say is the first ever picture of one. So it's there now.
Wow, that seems more like CGI. But that's not the picture. The picture was much more grainy than that. It wasn't that high res.
I don't care if it's fake or real,
this
right?
Seems like an artist's interpretation.
Possibly not. It doesn't matter, right? The problems are the assumptions in terms of the motions that you've got from the heliocentric model, things moving behind, as you describe it. All right, we've validated that, have we? No, of course not. Just a presupposition based on the heliocentric model. The description of what they've attributed the words black hole to this that they've photographed in the sky doesn't make it so. Doesn't mean their description's accurate when they've made up a description with maths. So, here we go. This is the more recent one. So yeah, same principle. So they've seen this in the sky, have they? No more valid than saying that light called Venus is a sphere the size of Earth, a physical body we could land on. But for the fact that we know it's really hot, do you? Why? Well, it's got greenhouse gases all around it, hasn't it? Has it? It's a light in the sky. But you've got a whole naming story thing going on with it, though, haven't you, based on your model and our assumption? Talking of our assumption, just so we round out housekeeping, any evidence of the R value?
Oh, don't escape just yet. I wanted to say you forgot that Venus is much closer to the sun, so it's like
closer to the sun, based on your knowing how far the sun is and all that stuff that we've just covered in the previous housekeeping questions, right?
Yes.
Of course.
Now you're getting it.
Of course, now I've got
That's how heliocentrism works, Nathan. Get over it.
My bad. Just a philosophy, though, isn't it? Doesn't mean we're standing on a sphere, though, does it, Owen? Just a way of conceptualizing those movements of stars and giving them little names, like black hole. You know, you can call this thing black hole. Yeah, and then you can even make up a little bit of maths about what it does and what it is. When you've taken a picture of something and that's all you've done. Not science, though, just naming stuff. And coming up with stories.
But they're getting very far, you know. Recently, they even they scienced the shit out of the center of the moon and what it all was. They figured it out. So they're probably going to do that with the other planets at some point as well. They're just going to tell you this is exactly what the planet is comprised of. This is how it works. Venus and Mars, and it's all just going to be just conjured up like that.
Just make it up. Literally just make it up. Enough. Any evidence of R?
Next one.
I haven't seen chocolate the last couple of shows.
I don't know where he is.
I'm sure he's all right. He's a big lad. He can handle himself.
Yeah.
That's it then. That concludes housekeeping. Hooray.
Funny enough, I came across this channel recently, the science, quote unquote, science communicating channel. So they posted this video. They have like 4.5 million subscribers. They posted a video with the title, "No human has ever left Earth's atmosphere. Here's why." It's a bit telling.
Yeah. Tell us all about it. Just fill us in on the broad strokes.
And I left a comment saying, "Welcome to Flat Earth. Isn't that coincidence? That's our argument too."
Do you like to absorb our arguments and throw them back at us? Like, well, obviously, Bill Nye, we're in a closed system. All right, just made up Voyager and going to the moon then, because closed. Just throw it back at us like it's a defence. Well, we don't have a geometric horizon. What, the thing you're claiming, blocks, boats and buildings? Your claim of a sphere Earth with a physical horizon, you're saying we haven't got that? You think telling me we haven't got one's a defence? No, just a welcoming to flat Earth. Spot on, Unbelievable Productions.
And also in that video, they claim they think the Earth's atmosphere is further than the moon now spreads. That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Well, that's how they get around. You can't leave Earth's atmosphere. If it's wrapped around the moon, then they're still in Earth's atmosphere. They just created a get out of jail free card.
Not really. They still need a container for gas pressure to exist in the first instance. You can extend the Tor values to whatever they like. It also demonstrates that they're just making it up as they go along when they change the Tor values. Oh, well, the Tor values extend to the moon now. All right, did they not before? Is the entirety of that system that you've extended to the moon in a vacuum, with gas wanting to expand to fill the availability of volume? It just stays with us, like a little sperm tail between the moon rotating around us with the atmosphere not dissipating into the vacuum as per the second law of thermodynamics. Yeah, just keep tagging on a little bit more nonsense on the end, like it'll help, because it doesn't.
Yeah, but Nathan, don't you know it's really good news that that's the case now, because that means that any new explorers that are going to settle on the moon, they're going to have some gas pressure available to collect, so they don't have to transport new gas tanks from Earth all the way over here, because there's still some atmosphere out there now that they can collect and then use, so they can stay there. It's good news.
It's totally farcical, and you know by your tone that that's what you're implying. But they're cocked up, right, really. You know, the bullshit lie that is going to the moon, that's probably what killed the heliocentric model. You know, if they'd have said it was too difficult, they could have just carried on speculating and have us say no. Whereas being able to point out that they've claimed to have travelled in a fake place, the vacuum of space, and then covering it up by extending the Tor values to the moon in the vacuum of space, which doesn't solve the problem in the slightest. And then, you know, giving us 1960s stop motion animation and models on strings that is easily debunked by a 5-year-old as absolutely appalling cinematography in modern times. So their biggest mistake was to fake the moon landings, because it's shown its age. It looks shite. I mean, it really does look terrible.
Yeah, but more than 50% of the people still believe we've
Because they're
landed
not
on the
looking at
moon,
it.
and it did happen.
It's because they're not looking at it. They like the nostalgia. They like the idea because they've got the idea in their head. But are they sitting looking at the footage of it blasting off the moon on a string? No. But they'll have Family Guy laugh at you for it when they pretend to have Stanley Kubrick faking going to Mars and having a string pull the pod up. You know, they'll show it you. They'll laugh in your face. The psychopaths that do recognise how stupid and absurd going to the moon was, you know, they probably recognise how embarrassing it is and can't believe it's lasted this long. But that was a massive mistake. You know, you can pull the wool over most people's eyes most of the time with the fakery in the news. But that's a step too far. You know, that's going to crumble as the technology of faking stuff improves. You know, cinematography's come a long way. And while they're still faking us today with the ISS, it doesn't change that you can easily go back to the moon stuff and go, wow, isn't it laughably awful? Obviously they didn't go to the moon. Not to mention the fact that the place they claim to travel through is space, a fake place where the gas would fill if we had a vacuum in the sky. We don't.
I just thought of this, and Erwin's gonna like this. See what we do, what'll happen with this argument. That if the moon is pulling, so to speak, on the oceans, causing the tides, right? Supposedly. Well, when your moon is directly overhead, then the gas pressure should lessen because it's pulling more gas through the moon. And if you're on the opposite side of the so-called sphere, you should have higher gas pressure because you got the Earth and the moon pulling on the gas on the opposite side. So, is that ever experienced anywhere?
No, you've given us an affirming the consequent on their behalf, though, haven't you? You could formulate that into a globe proof, Paul. You could say that the pressure's decreased on the other side with an affirming the consequent. Are you following where I'm going? Because I'll just lay it out if you're not.
Yeah, no, go ahead. I'm driving, so yeah, go ahead and lay it out.
Say, because the Earth is a sphere with a gravitational attraction between the Moon and the Earth, it's pulling the atmosphere at a greater degree when the Moon is on the side of the Earth with that lower pressure. Therefore, it's higher on that side than lower on the other side. Therefore, Earth is a sphere with an atmosphere that's being pulled by gravity towards the spherical shape of the Moon and the spherical Earth. So you can just, if P then Q, Q therefore P, with that statement that you've asked as a question.
And if you don't see that at all, then...
But it doesn't prove or my point, Paul. My point is that it doesn't prove or disprove anything. If you demonstrated that that was the case, there was a higher pressure on a particular location on a map, unless you're asserting that that's on the other side of a sphere for a start, what's it proving? Well, there's a different pressure in this different location, so what? Unless you beg the question and affirm the consequent, that's never going to turn into an assertion that proves anything either way, or disproves anything either way. So if you didn't show that that was the case, would that disprove it's not a sphere that you've assumed to affirm the consequent? Sorry.
No.
Worth a try, though. Well, that killed that. My bad, Paul.
No, that was the point. But I mean, that's the logic of the reasoning. You know, if you beg the question and then if the moon's pulling on the Earth, pulling on the tides, pulling on the water, then it should increase and decrease air pressure.
It does increase and decrease air pressure, therefore Earth is a sphere, Moon with gravitational attraction between them. See what I mean? If P then Q, Q therefore P.
No, I get it. I'm sometimes I do this kind of stuff and wait for ballers to throw something out. You watch it'll come out later that they'll try to find some kind of proof for it because it's true.
Yeah, the danger being that when that's done, somebody in the globe side goes, you know what, I'm going to go and have a look and see if there's a difference in pressure. And then if there is, I'm going to assert that that proves Earth's a sphere. Because I've shown that it does.
The only thing, excuse me. Sorry, I had a cough. The only thing that proves is there's difference pressure over there than over here. That's all that proves.
But there's a correlation. The moon is not there, and then the moon is there. That's the correlation.
Has nothing to do with the moon. It has to do with feeling pressure somewhere due to weather and other factors that cause pressure or lessen pressure. High pressure system, low pressure system. Oh, so that proves we're a sphere? No, it just proves there's a high pressure system there and a low pressure system over here.
Exactly.
It can all be explained by relative density. On the higher scale, yeah, gradients set in. On the small scale, they don't. If the pressure is high, then a gradient also becomes more, how do you call it? Emphasized than in a low pressure system when it doesn't gradiate out as much eventually. So that's kind of how it works. Gradient is just a natural part of how gas functions within containers.
Depending on where they're produced, providing they're produced at the bottom, which they are here. Or in a bottle.
That is part of the cycle, yes.
Yeah, you just didn't say that. But yes, you're absolutely right. That's just what the gas does. There's less of it up high because it's being produced down low. Some of it's cycling back down again. It's a cycle. But there's no gas being produced in the middle of the air halfway up to keep the consistency as the same as it is at the ground. That's why you get high pressure down low, where it's created. It dissipates as it goes up. Well, that's it. That's why you have less up high. Simple. But it's still making its way up. That's the point. It's produced at ground level and going up. It's not being held down 9.8 meters per second. It's expanding in all directions, all vectors, not downward vector of gravity, and making its way up. Getting less and less as it goes. In the same way, I've used this example a few times, if you've got a kettle and you put your finger over the top of the spout, it's pumping out steam as it boils, and you get burned because there's a high concentration right near where it's being produced at the spout. If you put your finger about a metre above it, obviously you're not going to get burned, but you might notice that there's steam coming out of the kettle because you're still in the steam. Now, put the kettle and go 100 metres in the air. Do you think you're going to feel any of it? No. But it's still expanded in all directions. That's what it does. But the concentration's less up high because you're not near the spout of the kettle. Like with gas being produced by, say, trees. It's producing it there, and then when you're a metre above the tree, there's nothing else producing it. It's just getting less as you go higher. That's just gas behaviour. Not going down, though, I might add. Up. In violation of gravity. It's nonsense, 105-year out-of-date mass-attracting mass bullshit that there's to get around this little problem of having a sky vacuum. That'd be this black area on screen, right next to high-pressure gas. Because it'd want to fill it. That's what gas does. Hey, Chocolate.
Good morning, guys.
Right, gas definitely will expand into all directions until the complete confine of the container has been reached by the overall gas pressure. Then it starts to equalize, and then after that, what I presume to be because of relative density, gradients settle. It starts forming gradients, then there can be dynamics to it, gas being created at the bottom and all that, but still gradients will form, even in completely isolated containers, like in a gas tank.
Not exactly.
Different types of gases in there, gradients will form, but the bigger the container is, the more pronounced a gradient will become.
Yes, that bit's correct. Arwin, the only bit that you slipped in which was incorrect was the bit about equilibrium and then developing the gradient. No, the air's inhomogeneous. It's not in layers. So, but we never reached. We never reached. But it's never reached. There's always going to be that dynamic cycle. So there's always going to be gas being produced, going up, cycling back down again, depending on which cycle you're looking at. It's going to happen at different heights, but ultimately speaking, the fact that there's more of it being produced down low, therefore less up high, that's the reason for the gradation, as opposed to it reaching equilibrium and then a gradient forming in a sort of homogeneous way. That doesn't happen.
Well, that on its own is an assertion that is the sole cause of it. I've seen gradients without gas being produced in a tanker. So gradients are just a natural thing that happens, and what I was specific about is the gas pressure expanding to literally meet every part of the container, and then after that has happened, then the gas pressure kind of stops expanding in the radical way, and it all starts to push against itself, against everything after that, and then gradients form, but only after it has expanded within the container to meet every wall.
Right, no, you're spot on. It's occupation of all available microstates is how it's described in the second law. Yes.
All right. Well, I think your example of a bottle garden is a good visual here, because you've got a closed system with living things inside this closed system. And then when heat is applied to it, changes occur. And when the coolness or cold is applied to it, changes occur.
Open closed system. Haven't you heard?
Contradiction in terms, Neil.
I know.
Hey,
Can I ask a question?
Neil, you found your way on the panel.
Yeah, it's nice.
What's up, man?
What's up, Joel? Can I ask a question, Nathan?
You don't have to ask permission on the panel anymore. You can actually rumpus me without me being able to do much about it. You can shut down the show pretty much from that panel, Neil. So go ahead.
Yeah, but I can also be very angry at you for doing that. So don't.
So how do tides work then?
Tides?
Yes, tides. Like, how do we get tides?
I don't know.
Well, from the maps that have actually mapped them out there, digitally, even live, it seems to be like a magnetic phenomena that is just happening in specific regions near iron-rich grounds. And yeah, it's just a magnetic phenomenon. It probably directly ties in the same system that directly causes the celestial cycles and all that.
But once again,
that's Arwen's way of saying I don't know.
that
No, but it
once
is it's very magnetic when you just look at how the tides happen in circular fashion surrounding certain spots. It's just definitely a magnetic phenomenon.
No, not definitely. Aaron hasn't established that. I interrupt this speculation to bring you a super chat from Retro Bill. He says, where is the additional film footage from the remote-controlled camera they left on the moon, which filmed the lunar lander taking off? Yeah, it all took place on a soundstage, Retro Bill. Nobody's been to the moon. It was a violation of natural law to assert that they went into this area. If this black bit in this picture was a vacuum, then all the high-pressure gas would fill the availability of volume. Therefore, when they said they travelled to the moon through a second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuum, they just lied and then gave everyone a load of stop-motion animation, third-generation imagery, fourth-generation in some instances. So it was all grainy and crappy. Go on, 10th.
I like to revisit what Neil said and how we responded. So Neil said, how do tides work? Now, when the baller says that to me, I say, well, first of all, what does that have to do with the illusion of space and the second law violation? See, they're trying to get me to explain how tides work. I didn't make a claim about tides. I'm trying to show them how you can't have gas pressure next to a vacuum, and the so-called moon, causing tides, is what he wants me to go to. So it's like, wait a minute, we're talking about outer space. Is it real? Is it not real? It's a violation of a natural law. Now, are you going to go with natural law, or are you going to go with a mathematical equation? Which one are you going to?
Well, before we get there,
so people don't actually care to figure out what causes it.
It's fascinating. It's very interesting. Hold on. Which brings some clarity. Hold on. Hello. The clarity is such: in the same as volcanoes don't necessarily prove either way what the shape of the Earth is. The same applies here. So 10th man is saying two things. One, what the hell does this prove? Why are you asking me about it? What difference does it make when we can disprove the space? Now, that's kind of non sequitur in terms of Neil's question, because we haven't established with Neil, which is 10th man's second point, what his claim actually is. So, Neil, when you ask us about the tides, why are you asking? What does this prove?
Well, they're saying because of the moon and gravity, right?
That's a begging the question reification fallacy, though, isn't it, Neil? So they're begging the question spherical orbits and gravity, a reification fallacy of mathematics. So you're saying because they're begging the question and reifying maths, we need to justify it. No, we don't. Hope that helps.
Ask them what a tide is. They're the ones who defined it, right?
No, they always puzzle me because it doesn't happen on great large lakes. I don't see any tides on
that's not your problem, though.
Yeah.
That's their problem.
So, Neil, the positive assertion is coming from their side that the tides are caused by gravitational attraction or interaction with the moon. That's their claim. So don't get suckered into a burden of proof reversal fallacy or get us to justify their just so story. Get them, with the just so story and claim, to back their claim and their just so story with evidence. So in this instance, you're asking what's caused the tides. Well, there's a method for establishing that, isn't there, Neil? What caused them? Oh, the moon? Oh, well, you can establish that with science, right? Cause and effect relationship. Get on with the science. They've got all these bannered groups of people that claim to be science. So get them on the case, right? Cause and effect. Let's get it done. Oh, what's that? We just have to accept the just so story and mathematical reification of gravity. No. And it's not my claim, Neil. I don't need to give you any answers about why the tides come to pass, because I'm not making a claim about it. I'm just going to do a quick shout out to James Richard. If you take an air compressor and a lighter and you like the bottom of the air, I think that's light, the bottom of the air compressor, as it heats up, the pressure gradient develops inside, but you cannot have that gas pressure gradient without a container. Exactly, as demonstrated by... Thank you very much indeed for the super chat, by the way, James Richard. Really do appreciate the support. But your point, excellent. Yeah, exactly, as demonstrated by, or as exampled by, Zachary Sabala. Good times for all. GUDTIMS number 4 ALL YouTube channel, who did exactly that and demonstrated it. A gas pressure gradient within a container. He just heated one end, cooled the other, got a gas pressure gradient. But he needed a container. Gas pressure gradients, no sweat. It's a delta of gas pressure. First, the gas pressure, which requires containment, then gas pressure gradients. So claim of, well, I got gas pressure gradients, so what? Still need a container, and your Earth in a sky vacuum's an open system. Therefore, fake. Space isn't real. The gas would fill the space.
Hey, if I can comment some on Neil's question, when I get in discussion about the moon causing the tide, supposedly according to gravity, if that really keeps on going and going, then I'd like to ask, okay, so if gravity causes an attraction from the moon pull on the water, could you show me in a calculation how that works, please?
Well, first of all, you're using...
You know why?
Hang on.
Don't interrupt me.
This is a QE challenge that's been laid down.
You're using fallacy there. Gravity's not a force.
10th, hold on a second.
Shut up, 10th, man. I'm making a point.
Arwin! Jeez. Arwin, 10th. Can I just let Arwin get to his point? He's got a genuine point. There's actually a challenge that QE's laid on the table in the last Ballbusters, so I'd like him to repeat it and just make his point, if that's good.
Right. I took note of it. It's not that I'm going to personally do that, because I don't really like math all that much. But what I overheard is, okay, well, according to the way Einstein's gravity equations are worked out, you can only calculate for one source of gravity. Basically, it would be for the Earth. So if you claim that the moon is pulling it with its own gravity, you can't calculate that. It's impossible by the gravity standard.
To give you a succinct... so Einstein's field equations cannot solve for more than one mass. So moon, that's one mass. And presupposed sphere Earth, that's another mass. Oh dear. Oh, bad news. You can't do that with the field equations. You can't solve for more than one mass.
Yeah. But in Interstellar, they said that they solved it, though.
Oh, yeah.
I loved Interstellar.
That's nice.
Interstellar is your citation.
So I became a flat earther. I love that movie.
But all they needed to do is go beyond the event horizon, then calculate, get the right number, then pass it on through like a time warp thing. Through like, what was it again?
Are you just combining movies now?
No. This is one singular movie. This is one movie.
Can we just, sorry.
Okay,
can
I
hold on. Can you stop rumpusing?
And then the field equations are suddenly solved.
That was all talked through and convoluted. Can we just hear the entirety of Arwin's, quote, citation? What was the citation again?
The science fiction movie Interstellar.
Excellent citation. Thank you, Arwin.
It was really good, though.
10th man's been bumpers to all hell. Go ahead, 10th.
Yes. What is gravity, Arwin?
It's supposed to be the bending of space-time.
No,
you pay a lot of attention to it as a concept in the Einsteinian version. Very elaborately in that movie.
Okay, just a short answer will do. What is gravity again?
It's the bending of space-time.
All right. So how do you bend space-time? Can you give us a practical demonstration of bending a concept?
Well, here goes the explanation. We can't really, but you might be able to find places where space-time is kind of bent naturally. Now, this has been science fiction-wise conceptualized, and even many stories are made about it. But yeah, it is suggested that at one point we could, and phenomenon like that could be encountered in order to actually prove the entire concept and gravity with it.
So
that's
time
the suggestion.
Is time
I think even Einstein called that.
Is time a concept, or is it something tangible like a touch and bend, like a hose or something?
Well, it would be completely conceptual until you would find a way to manipulate it and thereby empirically establishing that it is real.
Okay, so how do you manipulate a concept, Arwin? Give us a practical demonstration.
Well, it wouldn't be a concept if it could be manipulated, so there's only one way to find out.
Well, you're saying if I found a way to manipulate a concept. Now, can you show me how we can arrive to this Einsteinian theory, or whatever it's called, by, did he ever do it, or is it a mathematical construct?
Did I say that?
I'm asking you. Is it
You're making
mathematical?
an extremely moot point.
No, he's
I'm
not.
making
No, he's not. He's making a valid point.
No, yeah, it's a concept, I know, but the suggestion is that if there is some phenomenon out there that would basically point out, be the proof for this concept,
So
then
there
yeah,
hasn't
suddenly
been
it's not
one.
a concept anymore right then. So that's
Perfect.
That's
Stop.
vantage
Stop.
point that
Perfect.
I'm taking.
Perfect. Right. So I've gone and taken a picture of this, and I'm going to call this a time hole. Done deal. There you go. All of the concepts that I've made up, I've photographed it now. So there we go. I'm going to call this a time hole. Done. Proven. Easy.
So what time-altering proof do you have?
I've just shown you. I've got a picture, right? I'm an astronomer. I've taken a picture of my time hole. Therefore, every mathematical reification I imply is relevant because here's a picture of a time hole. Can you not see the time hole?
No, you're thinking like an astronomer. I'm
just said
taking
that.
it one step beyond into real physics again.
Yeah, Nathan the astronomer. And I'm going to name this thing I've looked at a time hole. Therefore,
That's good for
time.
you.
All of the concepts in mathematics used to describe time are proven in this time hole. There it is. What's your problem?
Well, you're not actually showing. You're just looking at something that doesn't prove any time alteration.
My bad. I was thinking of a different set of bullshit just so stories. I actually meant black hole. I've just called this a black hole. Sorry, I was using the wrong words. I've just decided that black holes and all the stuff about black holes is true because I've taken a picture of a black hole. I just mixed up my words. It's actually this in front of you now. That's all true because I just made up that, and there's the picture. Black hole, I mean.
That's very nice for you, astronomer Nathan, but you're going to have to actually figure out if it is a thing beyond just a dark blip with the light behind it.
Hello? Black hole picture on screen. Science denier.
Okay, this is too far now.
I posted the real picture of the black hole in Ballbusters, so you're all wrong.
Okay. Yeah, Nathan, you're definitely getting farcical.
Okay, let's just stick this on. So you're saying that the black hole is actually the ring of fire around a Snoop Dogg spliff?
Yeah.
It does look pretty close, doesn't it?
It's probably because they photoshopped the original photograph.
Don't ruin it, Arwin. Don't give away the magic.
Nah, 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 nah.
Excellent. Very good. Very amusing. My point being, you can just make it up. You can derive all this conceptual mathematics, claim you've taken a picture, and jobs are good, is it? Well, it is if you tell people and then ridicule them for being science deniers if they in any way question it. Another quick shout out to James Richard. Here's one that I can't get over, and it's completely overlooked. Everything about space and the moon landing is in your imagination. Everything. Yeah, exactly. Based on little stories that they showed you. Shout out to Good Servant also for the super chat. Thank you very much, James Richard, for the super chat. Really appreciate your support. And hello.
It's a giant library of fairy tales with visuals, you know?
Yeah.
50 years ago, people would know fairy tales that their mothers would have told them when they were a kid, and they would dream about it. They might draw it. Now we got like an industry that does it, and they're focusing on this space fantasy. So those are our dreams now.
That's why when you guys were talking, I had the theme song of Star Trek playing in the back of my head. It seemed very fitting.
Hey, Righteous Force, good to have you.
Hello, Nathan. I'm supposed to say more things?
No, just greeting you. Just greetings.
Well, you're not exactly going at warp speed.
Well, it's still morning for me. I got up a bit late.
So back to the whole hoodwink on the whole population of this realm we live in. They've reified the concept and added some color slides and Snoop Dogg cigarette, black hole, I guess. I mean, it doesn't matter what they do after that. people buy it.
Hey, Nathan.
Oh, hey, Brian. Didn't
Hey.
spot you there. Good to have you.
What's up, Brian?
Brian. Yeah. It's
Could
all
I
about...
say something to Neil about?
Oh, sorry.
You can, but just before you do, because I'm
I
going to
was
have
gonna
a live
say-
show shortly. So, Brian's Logic, subscribe today. Go ahead, Brian.
Thank you, Nathan. I was just going to say to Neil about the tides. I'm not claiming to have an absolute explanation of how the tides work, but I made a video recently, and there's three factors in there, Neil, that have to be part of what's happening within the tides. The first factor is magnetic field. The second factor is electric charge, and the third factor is convection. We have a north magnetic field. We know there's a magnetic field to our north, no matter where we go. What a magnetic field does is a magnetic field will create an electric charge. Now, fresh water is what's known as diamagnetic. So it creates its own small magnetic field and repels itself from a magnetic field. Salt water is not as diamagnetic as fresh water, but the problem is salt water has salt in it. The salt is a very, very good conductor of electricity. Now, what happens is the magnetic field creates a magnetic charge. This magnetic charge moves through the salt water due to the salt. And when you have a moving electric charge, which is what happens with salt water, because convection is causing it to move, what happens is that creates a magnetic field of its own. So you have two magnetic fields working against each other or around each other. And you have convection then from the sun. If you look at the biggest movements of water in the world, they are exactly between the Tropic of Capricorn and the Tropic of Cancer, because that's where the sun where the sun is during the year. It's at one of those points. So in my video, I show physical demonstration of all these things. So all the balls I'd have is mass attracting mass. Now that's out of date by 105 years. Einstein's field equations don't account for any more than one mass. So Einstein does not account for, or Einstein's theory of general relativity does not account for or give explanation for the tides.
And with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you, first and foremost, to all of you who did join live, smashed the super chat, commented, shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. Of course, if you are watching on either premiering stream, stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Massive thank you to today's Discord and G Plus panels for making today's live show possible. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering stream, as the after show starts now. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
To our tides, that's the thing. They don't tell the kids the convection is happening in the world due to the sun. They don't tell the children that. They don't tell the children about electric charge and salt, or about magnetic fields, because a magnetic field creates electric charge, right? That means, and it's conducted then by the salt in the salt water through the water, and the water moves due to convection, which means, and there is a certain amount of diamagnetic with salt water. It's just not as diamagnetic as fresh water. And what happens is you have then a moving electric charge, which creates its own magnetic field. So you actually have two magnetic fields happening at the one point. But I can't say that, I'm just some guy in Ireland. I can't say this is how tides work. But I can show physical demonstration of three things that are part of it. And they have nothing to do with gravity. Oh, sorry, I know to date gravitation as an explanation.
Well, Brian, nothing has to do with gravity because gravity is not a force.
Yeah, it's a reification.
It doesn't exist at all. It's not in effect.
Yeah,
sorry,
maths. Maths that's been reified, a reification fallacy.
Exactly.
Well, logical fallacy is better than nothing.
End quote, Tim Osman.
That was good. Got to have something, even if it's wrong.
I can't stay on very long, but I have something a little small, which could be an absolute bombshell, right? And I'm going to throw it out to you now. If Nathan, you don't mind me doing this now. I'm kind of hijacking things.
Go ahead.
Right, I've been looking at hurricanes and cyclones. Right now, we know that the official narrative is that hurricanes turn in a particular direction in the northern summer months, and that cyclones turn in a particular direction in the southern summer months. Right, this is the basic claim, and it's claimed that this happens due to the Coriolis, Coriolis effect, what they call the Coriolis force. Now we know that's a lot of rubbish. As just for the audience's benefit, even if, and this is like fantasy, even if the Earth was rotating, the Coriolis effect would still not create a weather system. It's just a visual effect, so that would not create a weather system. But they like to say that these things are created by the Coriolis effect, right? But they're not, right? Even in their model, they're not. They will be created by begging the question, Earth turning and the atmosphere not, and this kind of nonsense. But anyway. That all that aside, I've been looking at them two things, hurricanes and cyclones. And I've had a question for a while, and I had to check it out. Because, you end up having a lot of questions, and you don't get to check them all out when they first come to you. The very first photograph of a hurricane was from 1961. It was the Taurus 3 satellite. Now, that's alarmed us straight away, right? The very first colour photograph of weather systems going in two directions is from January 21st of January 1968, just before they went supposedly to the moon. And it shows the supposed globe Earth with the south and north having weather systems that appear to be going in opposite directions. Right? Now, when you search Google, now I could be wrong about this, right? But I cannot find, when I search Google with different searches, anything, right, any evidence whatsoever before 1961, right, that shows and proves that hurricanes and cyclones are turning at all. There is no evidence whatsoever that I can find that that's happening. If you search in Google, they'll keep on bringing you back to the Coriolis effect. You ask, where was, like, any type you want, any type of question you want.
Okay, no.
How did we know?
Hold on. Yeah. Your claim's out there. Cool. Do you remember about, I don't know if you're around about this time, I can't remember how long you've been around, actually, Brian. How long have you been around on this scene?
I'm around since 1915. 2015, Nathan. But I haven't been vocal for only the past 3 years, I'd say.
No, that's fine. So you would remember Jeranism with his website that showed all the different map projections with the weather on them. Do you remember that?
Yeah. The one they used to have the AE map, and they took it away, that one.
Right. Well, what did the AE map projection show in terms of the wind and what it was doing on that map?
It just went in all directions.
It just went in a circle.
All together, around the Earth, just one big circle. Yeah.
Right. It all looked very harmonious. Now, when they split that map into, say, a Mercator projection, you end up with what was starting off as a circle going in a very harmonious pattern, turning into, perfect timing, what's on screen now? That's what the projection then shows the air to be doing, the winds to be doing, I should say. So, you might be onto something here. Now that you make me think about how it was presented, you don't suddenly put two and two together and say, hold on a second. When you split up the projection and move the landmass over here and over there and over here, you'd end up with that harmonious circle of a wind going around what looks polar-centric to being what's projected out from these satellite images from space. That's a bit interesting, isn't it? You're right. And when you do look into them, what do you get told? Well, you get told about the Coriolis effect. I'm not necessarily giving it a huge amount of credence, but you could be onto something.
Well, I couldn't find any evidence that showed in any way, or any photograph, or any visual, even up to today, from people on the ground, being able to actually show you visuals of this rotating weather system. And on top of that, I was thinking, well, if you look at that hurricane or whatever, it was just on screen, Nathan, that kind of has a shape. Now, okay, it's condensed water vapor, but does gas have a shape?
No.
You know, and if you look at the explanation for how these things actually happen, they don't make sense if you look at how they supposedly form. It starts out making sense, but then it starts going so bizarre. It's like, hang on, how can this do that and that do that? So it's like they made it up as they were going along.
Also, when
I can't find evidence.
When I was showing how the convoluted cluster screw of nonsense when it comes to the Coriolis is explained to the public, the second one, when you type in Coriolis effect, the second Google search I got was from the Met Office. They're like, all right, so the people giving you the weather are also convoluting the idea between a non-inertial and inertial reference frame giving you a not actual deflection and telling you that force turns the hurricanes. That's what they're telling you. Well, it's wrong. It's completely incorrect in terms of Coriolis effect, but ultimately speaking, it's people talking about the weather who are giving you this information. You could be onto something, Brian.
Yeah, because they even say online that what meteorology was has been the one area of expertise that has gained the most from satellites. Because they supposedly always have satellite imagery, you know. But where is the evidence? How could anyone know that these things were supposedly rotating before 1961? Like, even if you were on a globe, you wouldn't be able to know.
And on,
you know what I mean?
My mistake, but isn't that hurricane in the inertial reference frame?
Yeah, that's right.
Isn't it supposed to be going straight in the inertial reference frame?
For their claim to make sense.
Kosho?
Yeah, for their claim to make sense, as Kosho asserted, it'd have to be going straight and only appear to be deviating because we're turning underneath it if it's in the inertial reference frame, i.e. it's not attached to the spinning reference frame, which is absolutely the case, right? The winds aren't attached to Earth. They're separate from Earth. Well, it's claiming that there's 15 degrees deviation because we're rotating underneath. In other words, according to the claim of a spinning ball Earth, you look up at the wind, which is actually travelling straight, and it only appears to curve because you're turning underneath. That would make it a Coriolis assertion. Of course, that would imply that the winds are travelling in a straight line. Now, further to that, we've now got an added... Oh, well, I get Quantum Eraser to pipe in on this. So further to that, we've got Brian's assertion that it might actually be the case that while they might be taking a curved trajectory or a curved path overall, maybe, they're not actually spinning, they're not whipping around in a cyclone. Now, obviously, this is only in reference not to twisters, but in terms of the hurricanes, right, Brian?
Well, yeah, I mean, and I also wouldn't give too much credence to the thing with the AE map from years ago either, Nathan, because the AE map was just a projection of the globe. I know it made things look more harmonious, and I know they took it away, but I wouldn't give it a whole lot of because I wouldn't trust what they're giving us, even there. I wouldn't trust what they're showing us there. I'm not saying to definitely throw it out, but I'd be a bit dubious about it because you can't trust anything.
No.
Like, I can't find any evidence that any of these things are rotating at all.
I don't agree. The azimuthal equidistant projection is just a projection, and it's a global projection. So long as you understand what it is, then you're not going to fall into any of the traps that it's there for in terms of Globus saying, well, here's my false dichotomy. Let's pick between this global projection. I know what it is, but it doesn't change the fact that in terms of how it's laid out, I would probably estimate that it's relatively close to what it actually is. Now, I'm not saying that I'm, a fan of the AE map. It's still just another model. But ultimately speaking, I'm 99% certain that everything's been mapped out. They know precisely what the layout is. And you've got to have a starting point, even if it's laden with heliocentric programming. That particular model is going to be the most laden with heliocentric programming, right? Because it's so close to the bone. It doesn't mean that at some point you're going to have one of these projections roughly represent what it is. It's not going to be accurate. Of course not. Obviously, the scales are all going to be wrong, and it's got all the problems of an azimuthal projection that the azimuthal projections have. You know, the fact that the one that's polar-centric as well why are we starting from that particular point? You could start anywhere. You can pull it out in any direction. It's just that particular projection, the one that's the azimuthal equidistant projection that's got the North Pole at the centre, just seems to work with lots of other facets that you tie it into. It just seems to work. And there's various aspects that people have said, well, if lights don't work, and people have gone, well, they could actually work on it. And plus, the way that they have to be plotted on this map doesn't work with the way that the global projection of that map is designed to work. It's supposed to work from the centre out only, not crossing those. It's just not supposed to be used that way. So obviously it's not going to be accurate, but it doesn't mean that it's not going to give you a reasonable idea of how the land masses are positioned. And I don't think it's probably not that far off.
You know, well, I'm not really. One second, I just want to reply to Nathan there. Sorry, I'm not really speaking even about the map itself. I'm speaking about the people that put it together. They're adding in some kind of global nonsense into what the weather systems are showing us, or how the weather is working. I'm just saying, to not latch onto that as that would be definitely what it would look like, because they're giving us something there that that's what I'm saying.
I understand. I've taken it off in a tangent, and I was going to take it on a slightly different tangent after having the GoFundMe thing with Nick over the weekend, because he was talking about the moon and following the patterns and getting an idea of how the systems are working in terms of their cyclical nature. And I was like, yeah, I'd do the same thing after speaking to Stephen Chess about it and paying more attention to how our calendar might have been if it was actually based on the movement of the stars. Now, that idea has been completely taken away from us and sabotaged and messed up and rearranged so that we're not paying attention to it. Yeah? And one of the things that goes along with that is the cycles of the weather. That's very much intrinsic. And yet the weather's the one deceiving us about this heliocentric model and having Coriolis deviation giving us wind directions, actual spin directions. It's all it must be connected. It is connected. There is no other way of describing it. They're part of the same bullshit. The weather, that is.
How does an observation give us wind directions?
Well, they're claiming satellite imagery.
Just checking.
Well, they're claiming satellite imagery, though. This is Brian's point.
Yeah, the only imagery that you're going to see of hurricanes or cyclones rotating will be in two places: satellite imagery, or it's going to be a thumbnail on a video.
Hey Nathan, I posted some pictures in Master B of dust devils that I see on my property, and then also over the ocean. You can see.
But that's. Sorry, Tento, just saying that's more to do with cyclones, or not cyclones, but tornadoes and stuff, which is a different way. They're formed differently.
No, I know. I'm just bringing this into the conversation that when you have unstable weather, these things take place, and they do twirl around. So I don't think. I mean, if we see this here. Right. I mean, I've been next to one here as it's forming on my property, and the kids are like, "What's that, Grandpa?" And they go, "Oh, that's a dust devil." And then we watch it, throw up cardboard and everything else. It does move in the circular way. So I'm not sure exactly what you're saying, that hurricanes can't do that, or what are you actually saying?
Let me try. If you imagine the scale of a hurricane on the map, 10th man, would you concede that if you were to massively distort the area of the land that the formation of that vast weather system is over, that in terms of the projection that you then presented of the movement of that weather system, that could also therefore be distorted also? If you change the way the land below is presented, it's going to change the way the wind above is presented. That's Brian's point.
I get it.
Well, my point is actually a little bit even more than that. Is that there is absolutely no evidence that there's any of this rotating going on at all outside of satellite imagery. Before 1961, I can't find anything. And online, I can't find anything. The only place you'll find images of that is satellites. Go on.
Now, I've seen old television shows where they have certain types of aircraft that fly through these weather systems. Now, that doesn't show from above or below. That's just showing what as you're going through it, and then you hit the eye. So you have an eye of a hurricane, at least shown in these documentaries. So they came in from this unstable weather and then hit the stable area, and then they have to get out again. So they have to go through it, I guess, from the other side. Now, is that happening?
Yeah, but how do you know?
But let me tell you. Sorry, go on, Nathan. I'll go on.
I was just going to say, how do you know that's the case? I mean, if you imagine like a skirt of wind, so as described earlier with the presupposition of an azimuthal equidistant model that we don't live on, right? You've got the projection showing the wind taking like a curved path, right, all around the mass of all of the lands, right? Well, if that was the case, you could easily have a case where you come out of one side and then go in the other side of it. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going through an eye, but that's what they assert.
Yeah, I first of all, I don't care if hurricanes spin or don't spin. It doesn't prove what they're saying anyway. So to me, it's a moot point.
He's not. Hold on. He's not arguing that they don't necessarily spin at all. He's just saying that in the way they're depicted, that might not necessarily be accurate. You might actually have a much more large scale of wind that's being constricted for a different reason and travelling in a different direction, as opposed to in a twirly-whirly thing that's like an upscale tornado.
Well, yeah, but what I'm actually saying, Ted, what I'm actually saying is that there is no evidence of the spin or the spin direction or even the spin. There is no evidence of that outside of satellite imagery and assertions, globe assertions. This is what I'm trying to say. Where is the evidence that any of this rotation goes on? Because, as you said, I've seen this stuff before where a plane flies through a storm and so supposedly it hits the eye. But that could be just a part. That could be just an area, like like when it's windy, it gets when there's a lot of wind, it can die down for a minute, then it can come back. You know what I mean? Where's the evidence that they flew through an actual shape?
Whenever a hurricane has been depicted, it's always depicted from a satellite picture. It's never from a high altitude plane. No, well, I'm kind of asking Brian if that's what he's saying. So it's never been depicted from, let's say, a high altitude plane. It's always, quote unquote, a satellite image, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is there's no evidence that they rotate even before 1961 that I can find.
Okay, now what I'm saying,
there's no evidence.
Hang on. What I'm saying is whether there is or isn't, it has nothing to do with what they're trying to tie it to.
Yeah, but if you take it away altogether, Kent, and put the question mark over, because we're about what there really is level, yeah?
Well, no, I mean, if you act like a glober, just for example, a back and forth with a glober, and I said, what makes you think the Earth is a globe? And you bring up hurricane, it doesn't do anything for your side. I go, what does that prove?
Yeah, but if they can't bring up hurricane.
It seems like the question that I asked Kosher that one time actually got him to kind of say what Brian is saying right now. Like, are the winds actually rotating? Because according to him, the reason he told me that the hurricane winds are going straight is because I told him, why do they appear to be rotating from the inertial reference frame where they should be going straight? So the only thing he could say was that, because anything else would debunk himself, right? Now, even though we've never seen hurricanes as depicted as going straight, they're literally known as a rotating storm, right? An actual storm with actual rotating winds. So
yes,
I don't know. I kind of see what Brian is saying. It's like,
no, I'm not saying I don't see his point. I'm just looking at it from a point of, if I'm going to debate it the way the show here is set up, you want the shortest distance to the defeat of the baller. So it's like, well, what does that prove? It doesn't matter if it is or isn't.
The point of it, well, it does because one of the things they latch onto when it comes to out rotation, right? They can try and hand wave away what we say about, the truth of the Coriolis effect, and they can try and say, well, the atmosphere is moving in lockstep and all this nonsense, right? But if they can't show outside of satellite imagery that there's any evidence that these weather systems rotate in the direction they're said to rotate in, or even rotate at all. This is the point. Where is the evidence that these things do any of that stuff?
What
Well, you just said it right. You just said it right there.
I don't know, but I'm getting dizzy with all the spinning.
Good one, Neil.
Are
you talking to me, Kiwi?
Yourself into now. My word, people, you need a girl. Okay?
What?
All right.
Do you want me to tell you, or do you know?
I listened to the last couple minutes of it, and I can't believe my ear. What's next? You going on the Pete and Pete show?
Why?
Let me pose it. Hold on. Let me pose this question to QE. If the maps have been distorted, and the maps are presented by the people who give us the weather, and the weather is intrinsically linked to the bodies in the sky in terms of their patterns, so we're being taken away from that. Wouldn't it stand to reason that if you distort the land masses, the presentation of what the weather above it is doing is also going to be distorted? Wouldn't you agree?
No.
Why not?
Why?
Because if you've distorted the land that's beneath, it's going to change what is actually happening above it.
Doesn't mean hurricanes don't spin. You ever been in a hurricane?
Yeah. Well, locked down in one. Locked down in one, but not like watching it just from a non-inertial reference frame. No.
Just because what's he saying? Not the land. Just because it comes from quote unquote satellite imagery. Well, that's not satellites in space. Weather balloons, right? They get up high enough, right? They actually do spin.
Well, my point was,
how about a tornado? Do tornadoes spin?
We covered that. We're not talking about tornadoes.
I don't know. That's that.
Yeah, but tornadoes are a different thing, though. Tornadoes we can see in full, right?
Can we just let me respond to Kiwi a second? Sorry. My point being is that I can't find evidence outside of the supposed satellite imagery.
What evidence would you want?
Of any of this?
What evidence would you want? I got better things.
Well, I'd like to find out how they knew this was happening before 1961.
Look, that's why.
How did they come to the conclusion? Was it not just that?
No, this is why I posted those pictures of dust devils and over the ocean. Whatever you call those things, over the ocean. They're spin. For me, it's the wrong way to argue the point.
But my point being is that where is we're all know it really is level, yes? So we want the truth of things. So where is the actual evidence that this is actually happening?
What type of evidence would you want?
That these things are rotating? Well, evidence outside of satellite imagery. Something that would show that.
Go and watch a tornado.
Have you never seen one in the distance?
Satellite.
I can't. I missed you. I can't hear you. You're coming in and out, QB. I can only barely hear bits and pieces.
Brian,
say that again.
There's more.
I was trying to hear
what?
Just QE and QE and Brian.
Yeah, QE said something. I didn't hear him. I couldn't hear him.
He's cut out. I don't know.
What evidence would you want? You said something that isn't satellite imagery. He's addressed that already, saying just because they claim satellites are in a vacuum doesn't mean that there isn't something up high taking these pictures. He thinks there is. He's qualified it as balloons. We know they're real. We see them being launched. So the assertion that you can't get above them because we can't get to space would be incorrect, because it would be asserted by QE there is balloons that are above them that are taking these pictures. That's where we're at.
Yeah.
Balloons or airplanes fly over?
That's not relevant. It doesn't matter. That we see balloons, therefore we can suppose that balloons are above them at this stage. That's a fair enough supposition.
Okay, but the Taurus tree image, right, from 1961. That's would have to be pretty high to take in the whole of this hurricane. Now, maybe it was a balloon, right? But the second, their famous one from 1968 is from supposedly 22,300 miles away. So, and it's showing the whole of the supposed globe. So that's not. My point being is that where is the actual evidence that before 1961, like how did they know any of this before these supposed images? How did that, like, my point is this not all just built on the globe pre-assumption of rotation?
That's because of the star spinning. That's always where it started. The star spinning, remember? It's very easy. Anyone can engage in that thought experiment. That's where they start.
Yeah,
and then afterward, people just built the presuppositional reality of it. Like, what would it be like and all that. And that's what we got now, the heliocentric system.
But that's my point. But that's my point. 1 second. That is my actual point.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got a lot of just so stories.
Is it all just made up? Yeah.
We've got a lot of just so stories that have come from and are connected directly to the heliocentric version of our world. One of them's the weather. That's why Brian's questioning it.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. The issue that is standing to me is I observe in smaller weather instability of weather, like the dust devils and all this other stuff. Okay, now I haven't been above a hurricane to tell you, but I wouldn't go, like, I was thinking the same thing when QE said, the pictures can come from a weather balloon. And so the whole point is, if they're trying to use a hurricane to prove Coriolis, we know how to defeat that. So you're saying the Earth is spinning under that weather system to create the spin of the hurricane. So then the Earth has to be spinning under anything that's in the inertial reference frame. Then you know where we go from there. So it's over. I don't need to address, is it spinning, is it not spinning? That's just a mute point to me. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, I'd rather say if it's spinning under that, then it's got to be spinning under a helicopter. It's got to be spinning under a drone.
In terms of the debating point, what they're actually linking it to is Coriolis deviation. And, you end up with the stupidity of Kosho saying, well, yeah, the air's moving, the wind's moving straight, we're rotating underneath, giving you 15 degrees an hour. Therefore, in his assertion, the wind's travelling straight, not in a spherical, actual rotational direction. Well, that's their assertion being debunked, because we, according to the satellite imagery, have them rotating, right? Let's not go around in circles again. Boom, boom.
Exactly.
You could even kill the argument before that.
Well, I
hold on, Brian. Whoever that was, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just saying you can kill the argument before that. What I do is I found a nice way to do that. I just call it a visual effect that takes the carpet out of their argument completely, because how can a visual effect cause anything?
It can't. Spot on. Very succinct.
That's my argument. That's also my argument. Yeah. I also say that. I've been saying that for ages, that it's just a visual effect. I know that. That's not my point. I'm not even trying to but I'm not trying to I didn't link any of what I'm saying here to ye using this in a debate. I'm just pointing out something. That's all I was doing. I wasn't saying go off and use this as a debate tactic. I even said at the start I didn't know. I said at the start I didn't know whether it was true or not. No, all I'm saying, right, and I'll leave it at this. All I'm saying is there was no evidence whatsoever that any of these things are actually happening. Take it, I do what the fuck you want with.
No, we don't get that, Brian. At the beginning, hold on. At the beginning of this conversation, we made the comparison with the volcanoes example. We get it. It's an interesting folly. You just want to know, and it's connected. It's not going to disprove or prove anything. We've covered that as well. And no one's stroppy with you either. I'm interested. It's one of those things that I'm interested in. The weather and what they tell us about it. So an exploration of that, yeah, I'm all for it. It's connected to the subject directly. It doesn't necessarily prove or disprove that we're on a flat plane or a globe, but yeah, it's directly connected to the subject though. So fine, don't worry about it.
He did say it could be.
Yeah, that's all I was saying. I wasn't telling anyone to do anything with it in debate or we should stop debating. I didn't say any of those things.
No one. I didn't accuse you.
I got you, man. I know you did.
Hitting it on you. You know, we
No
were
one accused.
sidetracking. Yeah.
No one
Nathan,
accused
can I
you
make
of
a
that.
point
We're
about
just-
black holes when this is done?
Yes, go ahead, SE Montreal.
Thank you, Brian. By no means was that comment directed against you. I understand fully what you mean by your thing. The thing with with the black hole, what a freaking joke. The thing that was that should have been mentioned was that picture that you saw there took 20 years of composite images and a team of 200 so-called scientists to come up with that. That wasn't smile snap. Just want to make that clear.
Fair enough.
I know. Sorry, one if.
What are we talking about exactly?
Black hole.
Oh, right.
The so-called picture of the black hole, Darwin. People think that they just, snapped a picture of it. No, it took 20 years of composite images, which they put together through a computer, and it took 200 scientists. So the joke is, how many scientists does it take to take a picture of a black hole? 200.
But they followed Snoop around for 20 years. Wow.
That
Yeah,
makes
I'm telling
sense,
you.
though. It was so vague in the background. There was just something picked up. So what they did is almost like a long time keep photographing it and then putting all the images and all blending it into one to really emphasize the color like that.
It's very hard. The thing about space, right? Basic color of space, your basic space color, is it's black, right? And the thing about a black hole, your basic black hole color, your basic color of a black hole, well, it's black, isn't it? So it's going to be
That was a
difficult.
good analogy, bro. How you take a picture of two black things next to each other? Perfectly said, bro.
Very difficult.
Well, there's that, and then there's the inverse square law, over distance and with
Shout
light.
out to Hattie Hayridge,
Well,
who actually delivered those lines much better than I did.
How come it only took one take with Snoop Dogg?
I was going to say, I dropped that joke and no one laughed. I was like, they followed Snoop for 20 years, did they? And SC Montreal went, yeah, they did.
Yeah, well, imagine how many joints that took, Nathan.
Exactly, that's exactly thousands and thousands of joints following Snoop for a prolonged period just to get that one image.
It's comical.
Radio check.
Later.
Hey, QE.
Hey, hi. Where did black holes come from to begin with?
They're mathematical reifications. They're just derived in mathematics.
Einstein's mushroom eating pizza. Sorry, Nathan.
I don't think it's Einstein. Isn't it from the guy in the wheelchair? What's his name?
Nope.
No,
black holes.
Stephen Hawking.
Wasn't it Lemaitre?
I've already got no, not Stephen Hawking. Go on, you tell us. I don't know then.
Black holes from Dictionary of Geophysics, Astrophysics, and Astronomy, page 55. Black holes were first discovered as purely mathematical solutions of Einstein's field equations.
Yeah.
Oh, it is
This
Einstein.
solution, the Schwarzschild black hole, is a nonlinear solution of Einstein's equations of general relativity. It contains no matter and exists forever in an asymptotically flat space-time.
Did you see my video, QE, about Dan Panda going mad at man about you and Nathan? Did you see it?
What?
I inboxed you a video, and Jen Panda was going crazy about you and Nathan, and I took the piece out of it. It was really funny. You need to watch it.
Thanks. Yeah, so it was Einstein.
Hilarious.
It was Einstein then. I was wrong.
Yeah. It exists forever in the imagination. So, yeah. There you go.
Yep.
Yeah, until you
There's a
take a
flop
picture
on the
and then you
calculator.
connect the two, like we discussed on the show. Then you take a picture of something or composite together over the course of 20 years of watching Snoop Dogg, an image, and then you say that's a black hole. Suddenly, you've got something that can attribute the reification. It's the same exact principle with the ISS, right? There's something in the sky, and they say it's this stage with all these men on high wire, right? Well, because you've got a visual representation of what they say the light in the sky is, that makes it so? Well, obviously not. Now, am I decrying that there's a light in the sky? No. But does that mean it's the stage? No. Does this composite image, if you really looked into it, would you actually find that there are these vague, fuzzy things that they've taken from the same particular position in the night sky for the course of 20 years? Maybe that all is true. I don't deny it. But does that mean it's the reification of Einstein's mathematics? No. Same as the ISS isn't what they show you on TV. Just showing you something and saying it is the mathematics, it doesn't make it so.
Just gotta believe, Nathan. You gotta believe.
Exactly. Just gotta believe that what they show you is what they say in terms of their mathematical constructions. It isn't. Just a play. It's just television. It's an act.
It's the longest lasting
sitcom.
Right.
Magic show.
Yeah, magic show.
Sitcom.
Magic show is probably more accurate.
Joking around a lot these days, so yeah.
I think Neil's right. It's a magic show. It's a very long-standing magic show. Existing in a fake place. And they do. They show you magic tricks up there, don't they? You know, you've got Tim Peake showing you his little ball rolling around the circuit. That's a magic trick.
And dark matter has gravity now, too.
Dark matter has gravity? What?
Dun, dun,
Yeah,
dun.
Dark matter wouldn't exist without gravity.
Hold on. Dark
Did you
matter's
see the article?
I didn't see the article, but dark matter's a placeholder. I'm lost for words. You'll have to explain. Go ahead.
I'm telling you, I posted it in Ballbusters at 30 yesterday morning, 9:36 in the morning, 36 in the morning. From astronomers discover surprise twist in dark matter. And I quote, although they cannot directly see this dark matter, astronomers can see its effects. They see how dark matter controls the rotation of galaxies, and they see how it binds galaxies together. They also see dark matter's gravity bends how they also see how dark matter's gravity, that cracked me up, bends the fabric of space-time.
Okay. Wow, they saw
Wait a minute,
this, did
QE.
they?
Wasn't that from the beginning that they said
Wait a
they
minute.
took out dark matter?
Gravity. Wait, isn't gravity the bending of space-time?
Yeah.
So dark matter's bending of space-time bent space-time. What?
What? Yeah. What? I've got it up. I've put the article on screen.
I don't think y'all fully understand. I can explain it if you want.
It kind of reminds me of gravity causes the force of gravity.
I think you'll find
that's what I'm saying.
You've rumpused Dave's very good point there. Nobody even listened to him.
It was good.
Is that a no? Y'all don't want me to fully explain it?
Yeah,
Inception gravity, gravity within gravity.
Been rumpused. Sorry, Dave. I want to hear your really excellent rebuttal for a second time, if you don't mind.
Yeah, well, you really have to get into the theoretical part of it and say, when we say we can't see it, it doesn't really mean we can't see it, because we know it's there, right? Because it has to be. If it's not there, then all of our other magic tricks fall apart. So when you say that we're wrong for saying we can't see it, no, that's not true. You just don't understand.
And with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. Of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams for hopefully hitting the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
lovely day.